my journey in the 2015 World Cup looked very different than yours.
Mm-hmm.
I started and played every single game, played every single minute.
Mm-hmm.
What did it feel like to be on that team as a backup keeper?
I remember we were going into media day, and I don't know why it popped up, but I'm like, I see something on somewhere, and it was like Ice, and I was like, ooh, someone gave me a really cool nickname. Like it was like Alyssa Naeher, Ice, and I was like, sweet, what's this? And I like read further down, I was like, in case of emergency, and I was like,
Oh,
awesome,
crushing blow.
I was like, oh, that's tough.
Hello and welcome to the U.S. Soccer Podcast. My name is David Gass.
And I'm Meghan Klingenberg.
And this is the show where every week we bring you in-depth interviews with players, coaches, and experts and take you inside the U.S. men's and women's national teams at every level. And boy, do we have a good one today. A special feature interview with one of the GOATs of the women's game, two-time World Cup winner, Alyssa Naeher and Kling. I know this is a really special one for you.
Yeah, it was super special. Alyssa has been a longtime friend. We've known each other since we were 12, and she has seen me through all of my phases, and she probably has a lot to say about it. And I've seen her through her phases too. So it's been really fun to see the growth that we've gone through, see the trajectory of her career, affectionately known as Uncle to everybody in the women's national team, Chicago Stars world. But it was just a really special one to be able to sit down with somebody where when you first meet them, it's like we're just some kids playing soccer. And then all of a sudden she ends up being a two-time World Cup champ and an Olympic gold medalist. And yeah, we've done some pretty cool stuff together. And it was really fun to reminisce and put her career on highlight reel.
The thing is, though, with 20 plus years of friendship, teammate time, multiple World Cups, all those trophies, it means we couldn't stick it in one. It's a long conversation, and we are so excited about that. So we have part one coming here today. That is Alyssa on what makes goalkeepers unique, her early days playing with you, Kling, and her experiences being a backup at the 2015 World Cup. Let's dig into it right now.
Alyssa Naeher, thank you so much for being here. I am so happy to have you on as a guest of the U.S. Soccer Podcast. And it just feels so fitting because we started our career together and now we're talking about the ends of our careers on the same show. Before we get there, I want to start here.
Okay.
You played a lot of other sports growing up. I remember this. But you chose soccer.
I did.
Why did you choose soccer? And if we're going to get sentimental, what made you fall in love with the game?
I think originally, I got into soccer. It was something that me and Amanda did. Obviously, my twin sister. It was always easier to kind of get into the AYSO soccer side of it, and just Saturday morning soccer. And we always had fun doing it. But we both loved basketball as well. My dad was a basketball coach. He was the athletic director at a school, so we basically just had free reign of the gym, the equipment room, all of it. So we just did anything and everything.
Yeah.
Which we loved. And growing up in Connecticut too, it's UConn basketball, that's what everybody wants to do. But I think for me, how it ended up kind of playing out was the decision in a way made itself. I was fortunate enough to be able to play basketball all the way through high school. That was always something that was really important to me, and I was very fortunate that my club coaches were very supportive of that. Basically had the conversation with them every October, November, hey, look, basketball season's coming up. From November till March, that's the priority.
Yeah.
I want to play basketball. I'll do the best that I can to, there's a practice late, indoor tournament on the weekend. If I can get there, I will. But from November to March, it's basketball season. That takes priority. And I'm very grateful that they all allowed that, because I think it's so unfortunate for kids now if you're forced to only do one sport. It's one thing if that's all that you want to do and it's just a passion of yours, but I have been and always will be an advocate for kids to play multiple sports and just have fun doing it. And honestly, I credit a lot of soccer success to playing basketball.
Mm.
So I loved it. And then, just kind of once I got into the youth national team system at such an early age with you and Tobin and Kelly and, the whole crew of us, started realizing that I think I can pay for college with this. It was one of those of, I'm not really sure where it's going to go after that, but I think I can play in college and get it paid for.
Looking
So
for a deal.
that was kind of the path forward, but able to go to the Women's World Cup game in '99 was a pretty impactful moment for sure. In that, I was 11 years old, so to go to that game and just see the magnitude, like kind of right in your backyard, with Christine Lilly playing, a fellow Connecticut native of, this is somebody coming from where I'm from.
Yeah.
And now she's here at the biggest stage. It was just, I remember being like driving home like on cloud 9 of like, that was so cool.
It was so cool.
It was so cool.
I mean, a lot of us our age have that same memory. We were all in different spaces and like in our hometowns, watching it in different places, whether we were at the games, whether we were at home. But we all have that memory of that. And now these 99ers, we know, and we can call them friends. And that's actually so cool.
So insane.
I'm like, I don't know how this happened to us, but I am not mad about it.
I know. It was just the most surreal moment of my whole life, maybe, was last summer. We were playing in New Jersey for one of our 2 send-off games to go to the Olympics. And happened to be the 25th anniversary of the 99ers World Cup.
Wow.
The same day that I was celebrating my 100th cap.
Wow.
So we're at the game. The whole 99ers team comes to our training the day before. We've got brunch with them that afternoon. I'm celebrating 100 games for the national team. They're celebrating 25 years of, that was one of the most inspiring events of my young career.
Yep.
And now these women who I grew up idolizing and looking up to and trying to emulate are sending me and the rest of my teammates off to a Olympics.
That is such
and
a
I
cool
was
moment.
even now I'm getting chills thinking about it. And I was I remember sitting back in the chair and I was talking to my parents when they came to visit the hotel and I was like, you guys, what's happening?
I know.
It was just
Isn't
such
that
a
crazy?
surreal moment of 25 years later where they are, where I am. And it was just also being back in New Jersey where the game I went to, it was just I remember sitting back being like, this is really surreal. To if I told my 11-year-old self that, going home from that game, I wouldn't have believed it.
Well, let me flip this back on you because, do you realize that now, 25 years after the 2015-2019 World Cup, we're going to be invited to somebody's 100th cap, and they're going to be like, I was 10 years old when I saw you save that ball. And
I don't think it's
that's
quite
so
dawned
crazy.
on me yet, but yeah, for sure.
That's going to be such a full circle moment.
I know.
I can't even believe that. And for everybody that doesn't know, Alyssa and I go way back. We literally have been playing together since we were 12 years old. I've seen her before the braces. We've just seen each other at our most awkward, formative times. And I was actually wondering, what were your first memories of me?
Am I allowed to share those on live TV?
Yeah, please. Actually, everything. I want to know.
I remember you being this pint-sized Spitfire from Western Pennsylvania.
Oh, so nothing's changed.
No, nothing's changed.
Oh my gosh.
But I think that's honestly one thing, and I remember I told Tobin the same thing when she, just announced her retirement too, and I said one of the things that I love most about you and Tobin and Kelly is the people that I met back then, the kids with big dreams and high hopes, is exactly who you still are.
Oh,
but
thanks, Alyssa.
in a more grown-up, mature way. Obviously, we've all grown up in different things, but the joy, the passion in which you always played, the passion in which now you do things beyond your career, your playing career, is I think really cool. What you've accomplished, Kelly, nobody has changed their core of who they are. And I think that's really cool. To have known you way back at the beginning and having all of us kind of grow up together and still have those memories and look. And I think sometimes it's like really sad when you see people change.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it's like, for me, I feel so fortunate that the people that I grew up playing with, I can still look at you guys and be like, yeah, I mean, we can go back to the we've all, grown up and gotten past the awkward stages. But it's still like at our core, we are each like still the same. And I
Yeah.
think that's really cool.
That is a really lovely memory, and I really appreciate you saying that. That made me feel pretty cool, actually. I'm not gonna lie. And I think you're right. But one thing that I really remember looking back about you, by the way, is people thought you were like unconfident because you weren't talking.
Mm-hmm.
But you never were that. And I always knew that about you. But I feel like coaches would be like, you have to talk, you have to speak, especially on the field,
Yeah.
if you want to make it to the next level.
Yeah.
And that's one of the like biggest memories that I have of us playing together. People being like, Alyssa, you need to speak more, you need to talk more, you need to communicate. And I remember thinking, I don't really understand why they're making this such a big deal. Alyssa's going to figure it out. She figures out everything else. And you did.
Yeah.
And now we're watching you, go into World Cups and go into Olympics and have these big moments and using your voice to direct all of the traffic. It's been really cool to watch your growth from like somebody who was, I don't want to say shy, but like more reserved.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always felt like you had your power within you, but you didn't need to show everybody.
Yeah.
You were just like, I have the power. I just don't need to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then now you're able to just do that on the world stage and show people your power. I just thought that was always such a cool memory of you because it just speaks to that they just didn't get you at that time. But you always knew that you had that in you. And I always just remember thinking that about you. But one thing I was thinking about when I was doing this interview is I was like, if you go back to the footage, Alyssa, and it's grainy and it's blurry and it's not even close to 4K, and you're watching us play as Region 1 ODPers, Region 1's the best, shout out. But do you see future national teamers or do you see just some scrappy kids loving the game?
You know what's funny is I would love to actually go back and watch because I do remember being the 14-year-old kids being like, we're so good.
Like 100%
we are definitely going to be on the national team someday.
Delusions of grandeur.
If you remember sitting in a hotel room during one of the camps, it was like me, you, Kelly, Nikki Washington, Tobin, Jess McDonald, Becky Edwards.
Our team is stacked, by the way.
We sat in a hotel room. We thought we were such arrogant little kids. We wrote a letter to FIFA asking them to implement a U17 World Cup because we were like, we'd win.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Wait, why don't I remember doing this?
We were in, I don't know.
I was definitely in it.
You were in it for sure.
There was like no part of that action that I was missing. So I know that I was in it, but I don't remember that.
I just remember us sitting and they were like, why don't we have our own World Cup? That would be so cool. That'd be so much fun.
That is.
So who knows if they ever got our letter, but we're going to claim that there's now a U17 World Cup because of us.
Okay, I'm putting this out there, FIFA.
Maybe they can let us know now.
Do you still have the letter, and can you send it to us so we can fact check this and prove that it was, in fact, us that created the U17 World Cup?
We did create it. Who knows? Maybe we gave it to an admin or someone was like, hey, can you please send this? And maybe they told, I have no idea what happened to it.
They're like, no way, this is outrageous.
But we were like, how cool would it be to do a world? That'd be so much fun.
It would have been really fun.
Yeah.
That is true. If you could go back in that room and sit with like yourself and me and Tobin and Kelly and Becky and all of those players that were there, what was the advice you would give us now, knowing all that you know?
I think I would try to remind myself and others that nobody's journey is the same. Because I think that it's really easy to start looking at the people around you especially when you're kind of growing up in the same way.
Yeah.
And I would say I took kind of the circuitous route to get to where I was and ended my career. And that's okay. And now that I'm past it, I'm grateful for the journey that it took. In the moment, it was hard at times.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really easy to start comparing yourself to your peers and people around of, hey, well, they're 18 and they're getting called up, or they're 17 and they're going to a U20 World Cup. Should that be me? Does it have to be me? Am I not going to get to college now because of that? I think
So many what ifs.
so many what ifs. And whether it's with even the national team or regional team or whatever it is, I think it's so easy to get caught up in, looking around and being like, ooh, she's doing better than me. And it's not better than or worse than. It's everybody's journey is their own journey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to see that in the moment. Obviously now 20 years later removed and being able to see, where everybody ended up. And even the people that didn't end up in soccer, the incredible other careers that people ended up having from those early teams, like that's also amazing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to just be like the soccer path going forward. But I think it's so easy when you're younger to only see one thing and only one way to get there. But the reality is, and I think that's one of the most beautiful things about being a part of so many different world championship teams, whether it's at the youth level and especially once it got to be the senior level, is everybody, like getting to know everybody and understanding like what got them to that point, to that tournament, I think is just such a cool part of what we get to do.
I'm really glad you mentioned that because it's something that I want to touch on with you later. But I think we have to talk about something else first. I want to talk about being a goalkeeper.
Okay.
Like, why did you choose this?
Because I loved playing basketball. Truthfully, that was a huge part of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I thought it was really cool when I was younger that goalkeepers got to wear the different colorful jerseys and just like be different and wear the gloves and just kind of dive around and have fun. It just looked like fun to me. And because I loved playing basketball, the hand-eye coordination always made sense to me also. But I grew, like I fell in love with it pretty quickly. It just was one of those things where I remember going to a camp when I was like 14, I think, and I had signed up to go to the camp. I think it was called Soccer Extreme, if I remember correctly. And it was like the first like sleepaway soccer camp that I was going to, and I was signed up to do both like goalkeepers in the morning and then field players in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the very first morning session, and I wish I remembered the guy's name that was there, but he brings everyone in. He's like, we're going to have the most fun. We're going to have more fun than anyone here. We're going to work harder, but we're going to love it. And I don't know what got into me, but I was just like, I went right up to my parents, like, oh, you can take me out of the field player section. I just want to be a goalkeeper.
That's amazing.
And that was the first time I was like probably truly like taught how to be a goalkeeper. Everything else was just, up until then, just go keep the ball, like dive around, keep the ball out. It's like we're 11, 12 years old. Like, yeah. But it was the first time that I was actually taught technique and taught how to properly catch a ball and not just hit it away, but try to hold it and like different things. And I just loved it. I thought it was so much fun.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
And I do think there is something special about being a goalkeeper. Some people would call it being a little bit crazy.
I'm going to say we're a little off.
Yeah, I'm going to say
okay.
special because that seems a bit nicer, but
Yeah.
it feels like you need to have like that extra something special to be a goalkeeper. What do you make of that?
I think there's a lot of truth to it. I think it's a very unique position. I think something I remember my goalkeeper coach always telling me from a young age was no matter what the score is, no matter at the end of the game, win, lose, draw, whether you played great or not, the first person you need to go find is the opposing goalkeeper and shake their hand. And just like the mutual respect of you guys are part of separate teams, but also on the same team in a lot of ways. And I always remember that from just like that respect side of it. But yeah, I do think I don't think that I can like pinpoint exactly what is like a little off or different about it, but there certainly is a mentality to it, I would say.
But totally, because like field players, for instance, we're over here doing our stuff. And sometimes I'm looking over at you all, and I'm like, what are they doing over there? You're going out early. You're not stretching. You're jumping around. You're yelling at each other.
Yeah.
You're acting absolutely wild. So can you actually tell me now, after like 20 years of playing high-level soccer, what are you doing over there?
It's a great question. Everyone was like, what's goalkeeper land? You guys are doing weird things. Yeah, I think sometimes it's fun because we'll have like goalkeeper tryouts for field players when we're going into a tournament, because you need like a reserve just in case there's a red card with no subs or an injury with no subs.
Yeah.
So it's always fun to kind of watch the goalkeeper tryouts amongst the field players. But yeah, we do. I think the biggest thing with goalkeepers, even similar to field players as well, is there's so much of, if you boil down like all of our training, the repetition will do the same thing 100 times in the chance that it might happen once every 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
But the repetition and the building of the muscle memory then allows you to get into the game and not have to think and not have to do as much, and instinct takes over. So it is kind of insane how much repetition there is, when it's really like, I have even coaches are like, what are you guys doing? Your job is just keep the ball at the back of the net. Like, I don't get like what.
And you always have like the most equipment.
Yeah.
Like
we've
by
got all
far
the
more.
toys and
Yeah,
the gadgets
so
and everything
much
else.
stuff
You got to
over there.
create chaos.
Oh my
you got to
gosh.
create the chaos so that when the
And
games
it
happen,
is. I can
it's
confirm.
like-
I look over. It is pure chaos.
people doing log rolls and then diving over things.
It's wild, but it's a good kind of wild.
Yeah. I think part of it is like, if you create a lot of chaos in those moments, then the game slows down. Then when things do get overly chaotic, in a ball's bouncing around in a box and there's defenders, there's forwards, there's different pieces of it, it's not the first time that you're seeing chaos.
It feels normal.
So you're able to kind of be calm in the chaos
Yeah.
by creating so much chaos when you can control it.
Okay, this makes more sense. Now I'm understanding a little bit more of what you're doing over there, because we just never had any idea. And you can ask any field player that I've played with, and they'd be like, I do not know what they're doing over there.
It's fair.
And I also, this is kind of a weird tidbit, but I
Okay.
do think that I can like look at goalkeepers and be like, oh, that is such a great save, and that is like such a good goalkeeper, but I can't tell you what they're doing that makes them good. But I can
Interesting.
I can tell it if I
Yeah.
see it.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. You've played with a lot of great goalkeepers, though, so I can
I
see
have,
that.
yeah.
You've played
So
with a lot of great
I do
goalkeepers.
have like a good
Yeah.
sampling
Yes.
of selection, but I feel like goalkeeper is a solitary position.
Mhm.
But is it lonely?
I think that it can be at times. I think that part of what makes teams special is when they make it so that that's not true, if that makes sense. So I
Mhm.
think that there's inherently in us of, if a goal goes in, if you lose a game, even if you know in your head that there's, 10 other mistakes or 10 other people that it went through to get back there, like at the end of the day, you were the last person that it went past.
Yeah.
And whether it's one that slips right through your hands, which I've done before, or one that you've got no business even, like there's no chance.
Mhm.
In some ways, they all kind of feel a little bit the same. Some you feel a little bit more responsible for, but others it's still like you just want to do your best for the team and for the people in front of
Mhm.
you. So I think that sometimes in that regard, it has the potential to feel lonely, or you feel like it's solely your fault when things don't go right. But I think that's where the power of the collective and the teammates that you have, when they kind of make sure that you know that it's not. Even if like you're still gonna hold on to that, like you
Yeah.
can tell me all you want, like, yeah, Liz, it's not your fault. I'm still gonna go home and be like, that was my fault.
Right.
But at least like hearing or knowing that there's that support and that there's the togetherness of it, I think does take away a little bit of that like lonely feeling. That makes sense.
And do you think that because you're a goalkeeper, do you think that you think about the game differently than field players?
It's hard to say because I've never really thought about it as a field player. So I don't.
But you sit in some of our video sessions.
I
Like, you
do.
see
That's
them.
true. That's true. I think that there's certainly a unique perspective. I think even as I've gotten older and understood the game a little bit more and why I do certain things, a lot comes through experience. So now I do have the ability to like, I'll grab, even last year, I'm like, I'll grab Soph and Trin and Mal. I'm like, I don't know how to score goals and do what you do. But what I can tell you is this is really hard to defend. And when you
Yeah.
do this, it's really challenging. When you do that,
Yeah.
it can be a little predictable, like I'm expecting that, or kind of in that regard.
You go far enough as to be like, so if this is really hard for me to save. And
I haven't like, yeah, at times, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's really selfless because like you play against her in the league.
I know. I'm like, just forget this later. but yeah, I think that's, and even like a lot of field players, like they'll ask questions too. They're like, hey, what do you, and everyone's a little bit different, even like where you play with your back line or how connected you are. Some goalkeepers like to come all the way out. Some are much more conservative. So I think there's a lot of that. I think field players have done the same of like, hey, when you do this, like you're leaving this wide open. Or when you do that, it's like really hard to beat you. And I think that gets helpful as well as like it's usually when we're going into major tournaments because you're like, okay, like no holds bar at this point. Like we are going to win this thing.
Yeah.
So we'll hit reset when we get back to the league and playing each other. But for now, it's like all hands on deck to figure out all of it.
And you've had a lot of success in your career when it comes to big tournaments like you're talking about. But if you look back from our early ODP days to now, has your definition of success changed?
I think if you would have asked me back then, I would have said like if I didn't make the national, like I would have considered it a failure. I would have if I didn't win or start or things like that. I think there's different levels and layers of success. And I think that a lot of there's like the external success that is the medals and the wins and trophies and everything like that. But I also think that there's like little successes along the way and just like internal successes. And those ones are a little bit harder to define sometimes, but I think that it's a dangerous thing to get wrapped up in only externals because it goes away. I mean, eventually. I mean, it doesn't go away, but it's, life goes on.
Yeah.
And I think that there's always something new coming up. There's always new teams, new tournaments, new everything. So I think success is, to me at this point now, like, would my teammates consider me a good teammate? Would they consider me a good leader? Would they consider me somebody that they know has their back, that I would do anything for them, on and off the field? And I think, are we able to stay true to ourselves through all the ups and downs? And are we reliable? Are we people that people can depend on? And I think that's probably more now how I would define success in some ways. Obviously, you're always going to have the goals of winning.
Yeah.
Always. And you should. But I also think that it's unfair to say you failed if you don't get that.
It's not necessarily wrapped up in your worth.
Correct. And I go back again to the journey side of things. It's because I think the danger is if you say, I got to the end and we lost in a final, that's considered failure. Does that then mean that you are saying your journey didn't matter? And I would say your journey absolutely matters. Just because you didn't win a game in the end, yeah, you might have come up short, you might have failed at what you were trying to do, but I don't consider it a failure.
Yeah, you're learning, right?
Yeah.
Like you take that and you move it if it's your last game,
Yeah.
you take it into the next phase of your life.
Yeah.
If it's not your last game, you take it into the next game that
Yeah.
you're doing. And I love that you talked about the journey because I feel like on your journey, you have spanned 2 different eras of goalkeeping.
Yeah.
Like there was like a certain identity to goalkeepers when we were starting out, and now it's completely
Yeah.
different and changed. How does that feel, and what does that mean to you to be able to like be successful over both of these eras?
It's funny because I was actually just talking to some of my teammates here in Chicago like last week because they couldn't believe that when I first started playing that I could pick up a back pass.
I forgot about that.
They were like, wait, what?
That made things real
Wait.
easy
Yeah, I was
getting
like,
out of
I
pressure.
got to pick up a back pass and forget it, this 6-8 second clock. I got 4 steps. I was like,
gosh. Yeah,
I
we got out
remember-
of pressure real easy. I was like, here you go, Alyssa.
I remember showing up to my very first U17 national camp. Erica Walsh was our coach. The ball goes out. I go get it. I put the ball in the middle of the 6 and I walk back to the goal. She's like, what are you doing? I go, well, my center back's going to kick it. She goes, no, she's not. You take your old goal kicks. I go,
You're like, I've never practiced that
I've
before.
literally never taken a goal kick before.
That is actually shocking.
I never
to me.
had
I did
to.
not know that.
She looked at me, she was like, you are taking your,
Well,
and I was like-
she's like, that's about to change.
I was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. But yeah, like it's I still laugh about that one for sure. But I do think that would be something that I'm probably most proud of in my career is the adaptability to keep going through the different changes. I find it really fun because it's never boring. There's always something new to learn. There's always a change. You're never getting comfortable. You can't. So each time that there's an evolution or, formation changes, or there's always the different things that come about in the game. But I think the evolution of goalkeeping has been really fun to be a part of, and to still be able to be doing it and to being able to adapt to different coaching styles and their expectations of, the way Pia's expectations of goalkeepers were so different than Jill and Tony's expectations, which changed again with Vlaco, which changed again with Emma. Like everybody had different expectations, and you have to be able to you have to know your own strengths and weaknesses and find ways to highlight your own strengths the best that you can, because we all need to and want to try to stand out if you're trying to make teams and stay relevant. But you also need to be able to adapt to what the coach is expecting and wanting of that position. So to being able to kind of morph those two and stay, okay, this is what I know, that this is my style, this is what makes me me. But also I want to be on the field, so I need to be able to do like a little bit of what you're asking as well. Because what's going to happen if I show up to tell Emma, no, that's not really, I'm not going to do that. She'll be like, all right, we'll go find somebody else who will. It's like, so you've got to be able to kind of get the best of both, which I find to be really fun, honestly.
Yeah, it is fun. It is fun to be able to like grow and get better and look back and be like, oh, wow, I was a totally different player in college than I was at the end of my career. And I'm actually really glad that you mentioned college, because
I had to get taught how to use my left foot my sophomore year of college.
that is honestly wild, by the way. And thank you, Erica Walsh.
Actually, thank you, Ann Cook.
Thank you, Ann Cook.
I had to go to our assistant coach. I'm like, Ann, you got to teach me how to kick the ball.
Oh my God. Thank you, Ann Cook. You have changed the course of soccer in American history. So we really appreciate that and appreciate you.
I remember I went to go kick the ball the very first game of my season, and I kicked it left-footed diagonal, and I was like, yes. I was like, Ann, did you see that? And she's like, now do it again.
I love that. That's just such a fun story. And college was just such an interesting time, I think, because the WUSA had folded. The WPS had just started. It was like on its first or second year. We are about to graduate in like 2010, 2011 sort of era. And you make the decision to go pro. But let's be real, it's not exactly the most lucrative career at that point. How did you decide? How did you make this decision to go pro? And
Yeah.
If you didn't end up going pro, what would you have been doing instead?
So the WPS came back in 2009. Yeah, 2009. So that I graduated that year. So I played in the second season of it. But we had known, I think there was like a 2 year, like 2 or 3 year like lead into it where they announced that it was going to come back, which was kind of nice because I was able to like sit down with my academic advisor and be like, look, I want the chance to play,
Yeah,
but I also really want to graduate,
right.
but I need to be able to do this in 3.5 years because
Parallel paths.
yeah, I was like, I want to go and have like, if I get drafted, if that's, an option for me, I want to give it a shot,
Right.
but I want to be like graduated. So he was able to sit with me and help me map out the next like 3.5 years to do that. And it was more of the choice was I'd love to do it. I'd love to have the opportunity. If it works out, like I'll give it my best effort. If not, I'll kind of figure it out after that. So I didn't really necessarily have like a true backup plan.
Right. She was all in.
So I was all in, but it fortunately it worked out.
It did. It certainly did.
Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of U.S. soccer, driving a positive impact in the game and in communities all across the country, helping turn possibilities into achievements and lifting fans, stadiums, and cities to their feet. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America, official bank of U.S. soccer. Bank of America, N.A., member FDIC.
If you remember back to those times, I feel like they were just so scrappy, and that's being kind
Yeah.
about that time period and the WPS. Is there like a story or a moment when you look back that kind of just represents that whole era?
Interesting. So I would say I was really fortunate to get drafted into an incredible situation in Boston. Tony DeChico was my coach.
Love that man.
Christine Lilly was on the team. Christine Lilly, Kelly Smith, Alex Scott, Lauren Holiday,
So cool.
Steph Cox, Amy LaPelbit, Jordan Angeli. I'm surely missing like a couple. Like
Samashima.
yes, there was an incredible Leslie Osborne, Lindsay Tarpley. I mean the players that I was able to learn from I was so fortunate to be able to like learn what it meant to be a pro. And it was really scrappy back then. I mean, we were in a trailer in the Harvard parking lot. Tony loved that man, but he was a crazy person when his Italian side would come out. And I think I'll never forget this one. We were at the back fields of Harvard and we were doing this like fitness thing. And it's like the middle of the summer, so the turf's super hot. We're exhausted. Everyone's tired. But this goes into like like the part of being a pro side of it. Obviously, Lil and Tony go way back, like national team days, everything else. Tony was our U20 coach as well. So like,
Yeah.
I knew Tony for a long time. And so we're running fitness. It's hot. We're tired. We were doing this thing where it was a gauntlet of sorts. So we would do a 120,
Oy.
but then we would do a 300.
Oy.
Like 4 set, like 1 and 1 was 1 set. We did it 4 times.
Double oy.
Yeah, we did a lot more fitness back then, but we do the first set. We make the 120 fine, but nobody's making the time on the 300. Nobody. And Tony starts yelling at everybody. And we're like, whew. And we're kind of also a little bit surprised. We're like, okay, we're not that unfit. Like, what's going on? So we all start realizing that he left the cone just at midfield. So what was a 300 was actually a 360. So it's an extra 60 yards that we're like doing because it's an extra 10 yards on either side. And we all figure it out pretty like once we got it because we were like, we're not that unfit, like to not make the time. And even Lil was like Lil was running us under the table at 40 years old. Like even she was barely, and we're like, oh, like, who's gonna say something like because now we know we have 3 more to run. He's screaming like so mad that we're not making the time. So we run the second one, and nobody says a word. We're just like, okay, let's just do our best here. Same thing happens, and he's so mad at us, and he's just like, and we're all just kind of like, I was a rookie at that. I'm like looking around. I'm like, is someone gonna say something about? Finally, Lil like snapped, and she was like, Tony, it's not 300, it's 360. You forgot to move the cone. And I see like this proud man just kind of, you can see the wheels turning in his head of like, do I admit my error or do I double down on this one?
Please admit it.
Please. And he didn't say anything back. He just went and he moved the cone silently. He's like, again. We were like,
got it.
Gotcha.
Should be able to do it this time, Tony.
But it was like, kind of all jokes aside, it was also, like I said, it was like the learning moment of like players to coaches to start like this just like dynamic of teammates and coaches and fitness and like all of it was just like, again, we were all over the place. It was the first, second year of the league. Everyone's just trying to win. Everyone's trying to get better. But we all were like players and coaches. We were all in it together, trying to figure it out and just get the best of it. But I don't know why that story always stands out to me. But it was so funny.
It's so weird that you mentioned that story because I do remember that.
Yeah.
Like I remember because I actually got traded to Boston the next year. I was on the team. And I remember everybody talking about that. And it was like, it was still a topic of conversation 2 years after this had happened. So, yeah.
He hated when we brought it up. He was like, oh, we were just like.
Honestly, looking back now with like this totally different perspective, I'm like, oh, this could have been like a really vulnerable moment for him to like earn the trust of the team.
Yeah.
But we were just not in those times. We were just not in those times.
But like in a way, but the fact that he moved the cone, he like kind of silently did.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to be like, sorry guys, my bad. But like.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, at least he moved it.
He moved
and then
it.
you guys were able to actually, get in a few reps. That's
so
hilarious.
funny.
That is such a good story. And I can't believe that I actually did hear that. And it's still coming up. So
funny.
Rest in peace, Tony. We're still talking about that and talking about you. I want to talk about the World Cup now. 2015 first. We have won a World Cup together. By the way, we've won a World Cup together as U20s.
We did.
In 2008 and in 2015. I mean, it's pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
But my journey in the 2015 World Cup looked very different than yours. I started and played every single game, played every single minute. But if you're a goalkeeper that's coming into the tournament who isn't a number one, you don't really have an opportunity to get in unless the starting goalkeeper gets hurt. It's just totally different in that way.
100%.
What did it feel like to be on that team as a backup keeper?
It was such an incredible experience, I think. And looking back now, I'm very grateful to have had it before playing in one, because I do think that I was able to learn a lot from that team, even things that you wouldn't think about, like how to manage time with your friends and family and some people find that to be a huge distraction. Some people, the more family time, the better for them. But managing tickets, managing hotel rooms, managing the travel that your family's doing, and all of that, I was able to kind of sit back and take note of how to do things. But for me, it was, I remember going into we're going into media day, and I don't know why it popped up, but I'm like, I see something on somewhere, and it was like Ice, and I was like, ooh, someone gave me a really cool nickname. Like it was like Alyssa Naeher, Ice, and I was like, sweet, what's this? And I like read further down, it's like in case of emergency, and I was like,
oh,
awesome,
crushing blow.
I was like, oh, that's tough, but I was like, But it kind of is what I was at the time.
Yeah.
But I think it was, for me, it was, I just wanted to soak up every moment of it. And I knew that my best way of getting onto the team was to find ways and create a way that I was invaluable to the team, whatever that looked like. And I knew that I was young. I knew that I didn't have a lot of the experience that some of the other goalkeepers that I was competing against for that third spot. But I was like, look, if I can figure out a way to make myself invaluable to this group, I have a chance. And fortunately, I was able to do that. So and tournaments, as you know, get wild. You know, you've got a certain number of players. Players get injured, players get rested in training.
Traveling
So
everywhere.
there were some days I didn't even put gloves on. They were just like, hey, Alyssa, we need you to play center back today. Alyssa, you just go run around like a 9. We need an extra body. We need, going into the semifinal game, our coach's bus got detached from the caravan and got lost because they were an hour late to practice. So I just ran the goalkeeper session and got Hope ready for it was match day -1 training. And our coaches weren't there.
That's crazy.
So it was like, all right, I don't need to do this. I know the routine. I know what the practice is. I know what she needs to feel good going into the game. So I just it was one of those things you just figure it out.
I didn't even know that happened. Sometimes I think
Yeah.
I'm so oblivious, or
Well,
maybe
you would
I
have
was
been getting ready for the game
maybe
too.
I
So
was-
they tried to shield everybody from. It was like, the coaches aren't going to be here. Their van got lost. They're stuck in traffic.
Oh my god.
So
And it's not like they can just show up 45 minutes later, because you only have the field for
the
a
time on
very
the field.
specific time,
Yeah.
and they're very strict about it,
Very.
because you can only have the same amount of practice time as
Yeah.
everybody else in the tournament,
Yeah.
and it's all secret from
Mhm.
everybody else, just for some perspective for people. So if they're not going to be there, then they're
Yeah.
just really not going to be there.
Mhm.
And Alyssa stepped up and was coach and player for the day. That's amazing.
But I think, again, it's that's what, that team was incredible, because it's, even on the bench was Shannon Box, Abby Wambach, Chrissy Rampone, Lori Kolupny, it was just an incredible, the experience level that we had on that team that weren't necessarily the starters anymore, but their voices were so valuable to the group. Their presence was so valuable to the group that it was just such a cool experience to be a part of that team and see, just take it all in. Being in Canada too was cool. It's so close to the U.S.
Yeah,
so
it
there's
felt
a
like
lot
some
of
home
American
games.
fans.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was incredible.
Check engine, ABS, or maintenance light on? And O'Reilly Auto Parts is right around the corner. O'Reilly Auto Parts can help take the guesswork out of your vehicle's check engine, ABS, or maintenance light with O'Reilly Veriscan, a free service that only takes a couple of minutes to complete. You'll receive a free, easy-to-read report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans that have been verified by ASE-certified master technicians. O'Reilly Veriscan can identify the most likely problem with just one scan. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts can then recommend the parts and tools that you need to do the repair right the first time. And if you're not comfortable doing the repair yourself, they can recommend a local shop for you. Don't ignore check engine, ABS, or maintenance light. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today, a free service exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Well, that was only part one of our Alyssa Naeher special interview. We'll be bringing you the rest of the interview next week, and we will accelerate in time. We will talk about that PK save against England in the 2019 World Cup semifinal, the future of the women's game, and of course, for Alyssa right now, preparing for retirement and what it means. Kling, there is a lot for us to talk about, but first, a quick reminder of 2 upcoming games you have to check out. Tampa, get ready. World-class soccer is coming your way. The U.S. men's national team takes on Uruguay in a match presented by New York Life on November 18th. Don't miss the electric energy of U.S. soccer at Raymond James this fall. Grab your tickets today at ussoccer.com/tickets. And East Hartford, Don't miss a special doubleheader on October 26th. The U.S. women's national team and the U.S. deaf men's national team are taking the field at Pratt & Whitney Stadium in matches presented by Volkswagen. 2 matches, 1 ticket, and yes, free parking for fans all day long. Get your seats now at ussoccer.com/tickets and get ready for a historic day of soccer. Kling, that game in East Hartford is special because it's a doubleheader with the deaf men's national team, coached by our former guest and one of our favorites in Everett Palach. So we're going to get to see his team on the field as they prepare for the Deaf Olympics coming up in Japan. And it also will be the match that Alyssa is going to be honored at that game for her unbelievable U.S. women's national team career. It is one of those moments in a player's career, though, where we start to talk about legacy. What is Alyssa Naeher's legacy?
I don't think we can talk about Alyssa Naeher's legacy without mentioning the legendary keepers that came before. U.S. women's national team, and even on the U.S. men's national team, we've always had the most legit keepers. And they step up in really big moments. Yeah, we step up in really big moments. And they change the course of tournaments for the U.S. women's national team. And I feel like when Hope Solo, stopped coming in with the national team and retired, that people thought there was going to be this drop off. And they didn't think that Alyssa Naeher was going to be able to step up into that role. And not only did she step up into that role, but she grabbed onto it, made it her own, and didn't let go until she was ready. And that really speaks to her mentality. That really speaks to her longevity. It really speaks to how great of a teammate she is, because if you're not a good teammate, you're not going to last that long. So I think her legacy truly is about believing in yourself, stepping up into a role where there's a lot of public pressure on you and not listening to it and being like, this is mine. I'm going to make it mine. I'm going to do it my way and not think about what everybody else is saying that I should do, and lean into the things that I'm really good at, which I feel like she totally did, totally owned it. And now we're talking again about who's going to step up into this hole that Alyssa Naeher left.
Yeah, I remember from the outside, the sort of panic or worry, as you mentioned, when Hope Solo stepped away of okay, who's next? It didn't feel obvious. And then Alyssa has the success she has. And as you said, does it her way, right? Isn't Brianna Scurry, isn't Hope Solo, is a totally different style in person and does it successfully. And I think as a fan, then you see the handoff in 2024, right? That she stretches from the generation that you played with, winning back-to-back World Cups in 15 and 19, and now this new generation that is able to emerge with a gold medal in 2024 under Emma Hayes, with a lot of young players who haven't been in finals, players who hadn't played at big moments, and Alyssa's ability to sort of be that connection and that bridge. And now those players are ready to take things on, we think, to the next stage, but that will be part of our questions coming up when we get to O'Reilly Auto Parts Ask the Pros. But first, we've got unbelievable news, which is the U.S. has officially launched its bid to co-host the 2031 Women's World Cup. It would be co-hosting alongside Mexico, Costa Rica, and Jamaica. And of course, it would be the largest Women's World Cup of all time, as the expectation is the expansion of teams. It is huge news hitting this week. Kling, what's your reaction, and what would it mean to host another World Cup for the U.S.?
As big as the 2026 Men's World Cup on home soil will be, I feel like having a Women's World Cup on home soil is almost 100 times bigger. The way that this country gets behind the U.S. women's national team when it's time to take on a world tournament is, I've never seen anything like it on the men's side, on the women's side, in any type of sport. It's just truly incredible the way that this country shows up for the U.S. women's national team. And I'm gonna be the biggest fan there. Might be in the American Outlaws trying to help lead the chants. I will be so stoked. And I feel like this will be probably one of the statement tournaments that we will remember for a really, really long time. If you remember back to the 99ers legacy and how that changed the face of sport for women in this country. I feel like this one in 2031 has that same potential.
Yeah.
We're at this like moment where it could be exponential growth in the women's game. And we're going to tack a World Cup on right at that moment when everything is exploding. It's just going to like magnify everything and make a huge mark on this sport for like years to come.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I think one of the things that maybe hasn't been talked about as much, but should be, is the fact that the next Women's World Cup is in Brazil, which is on
Mhm.
our time zone. So you're talking this team coming off a gold medal, playing in prime time all summer, and then a home Olympics where you go in as the reigning champ. And it doesn't need to be this way because the US women's national team has so much depth. But, you look at the roster for this week's camp, and every player in the attacking third is 26 or younger. So we know how dangerous this group will be over the next 5 years. And so to go into a moment where all of these players will be entering their prime, but will already have been superstars for 5, 6 years, like you said, I think it will be molten hot of something
Mhm.
we've never seen before. And it won't be, can they win and springboard and become popular? It will be, they are titans of celebrities coming into it, and then the opportunity to perform in front of your fans at home, match in and match out, and change the trajectory of the sport, I think, and change the trajectory of the team is going to be so cool. And it's really cool. I think the co-hosts, the idea that we'll have a senior World Cup in the Caribbean, in Central America, a chance
Mhm.
for young fans, men and women, boys and girls, to watch those games, to be around that, is something that I don't know we expected would be possible to happen. And so I think it will be a really, really special tournament if it happens. And I think we're going to be really, really excited. And as you said, we will be in the front row screaming and dancing with all of it. But let's talk about these teams a little bit more. We have our Ask the Pros sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This is where you can ask a question for me, Kling, or Ale Bedoya, and we'll get back to you and answer it on the show. Let's start with Courtney in New York City, who says, with the U.S. women's national team going through a transition, what kind of leadership does this new generation need, and who's stepping up right now?
I think that this generation has the leadership that it needs. Like you have the Lindsay Heaps, you have the Sam Coffees, you have the Lynn Biandolos, you have like Alyssa Naeher when she was there was like a very experienced senior player who was imparting that wisdom into the back line. I mean, they have the leadership. Oh, Germa, duh. Like
Emily
they
Sonnet?
have, yeah, Sonnet. They have the leadership that they need. Now I think everyone was so excited to be on the national team and to be representing their country and to play on the world stage that they absolutely kicked ass at the Olympics and won that. Now I'm like, okay, but what does it take for sustained success over a longer period of time? That's very, very hard. I think what this team needs to do is to sit down and figure out what they're playing for. And it has to be bigger than just themselves. Every iteration, every generation of the US women's national team that has come before has had a like something that brought them together where they played for something that was bigger than just themselves. Whether it's creating a world where there is a WUSA, whether it's creating equal pay, whether it's, representing your country on a world stage, like each generation has come together and figured out what what does this all mean and what are we really doing here? What are we standing for? And I think it's important because that starts to create a culture
Yeah.
within the group. And I've been on some really amazing teams with some of the most talented people in the world and we can't win. Like we weren't able to win and it's because like, if you don't have a culture that you're nurturing, that you are contributing to regularly, that each person feels like they have put value into it, each person feels like a little piece of ownership over that culture and that team, then you're not gonna be able to do it at a really high level over a long period of time. So I'm not saying that this team isn't working on that. I'm not in the inner circle, but I do know from experience that that is needed to continue to win.
And I can say, just being a fly on the wall when we did our first ever episode with you and Becky, and just seeing the relationship you have because you've been through those battles and fires and had hard conversations. And then I think it was off air of Lindsay Heaps talking about what she learned from all of you and what she's working on as captain now of the national team and what it takes, and sort of having those conversations is really fascinating. And of course, as you said, they are some of the great sports teams of all time, both on and off the field. And now these players are taking on that legacy. Last question here. It's for myself, Michael from Baltimore, who says, you've interviewed countless players, coaches, and executive. What's one conversation that stood out to you, and why did it leave such an impression? It's a tough question because I kind of interview people once or twice a day, and it's my favorite part of what I do. I like meeting people. I like talking to people. I like figuring out what makes people tick. And so I've been really, really lucky to be in a lot of great conversations, but I don't think I've ever told this story publicly. The first one that came to mind was I was working for Major League Soccer, doing a video series at a preseason combine, getting ready for a season. So a bit more of a relaxed environment. And we had set up, we were interviewing every single coach. And Bob Bradley comes into the room and just goes, what type of crap are you all publishing on MLSsoccer.com? And he had an article that he was really upset about that had nothing to do with him. He just thought it was a poorly worded, written. He thought it had bad views. And then in general started rattling off some other things. The funny part was at some point we go, a lot of those are quotes from your not coworkers, but people in your level. And he goes, oh yeah, I know they're all idiots. He was in the room for maybe an hour. He kind of gave us this talking for a little while. Then we sat down and we did the actual interview where the energy didn't change. And I remember him walking out of the room and everyone like collapsing because you're like on edge, tense the whole time. I personally think that Bob, from who I've met, is the best soccer mind of any American-based person I've ever been around. I think he's a genius. I felt lucky to be in the room at that time, just hearing him express his ideas of where the game was, where it could go, where that league was, but where the sport was overall. I mean, we got on air and he started challenging me on soccer concepts that I had never heard before. And he was like, have you heard of this? Do you understand what that means? Why would it change the game? And I was like sitting on the edge of my seat, just taking it all in. It was an unbelievable life experience. And it is probably, when people ask me like, what's an interview you remember, is the first thing that pops to mind. So Michael, thank you for the question. And I'm sure the interview is still out there somewhere. It was, I think, when he was head coach of LAFC still, in some combine or preseason on MLSsoccer.com. But if you want to ask us the next question, if you want to maybe rile Kling up and have her come in and start yelling at you, or
Let's go.
Because you can't get me riled up. There's no way you could ever get me there. You have your chance to ask the pros. Drop our partners at Westwood One a DM on Instagram at Westwood One Sports. And don't forget, we will see you next week on the US Soccer Podcast for part 2 of Kling and Alyssa's conversation. So follow us wherever you get your podcast, subscribe on YouTube, and never miss an episode.